Hey there guys, how's it going? Just gonna kinda wait for some more people to kinda, fill in here, and we'll be able to get this going here pretty soon. Just gotta figure out my monitor situation here. Got a lot of stuff going on. Alright. So yeah, it's been a pretty chaotic past around 2 hours or so now. Just been kinda trying to keep up to date with what's been going on. It's been pretty busy. Yeah, it's quiet right now. Honestly, I don't really know what to expect. I've had a couple people in Discord that have said that we could expect more alerts soon. I don't really know. That's all kind of baseless. Some baseless assumptions, but as of right now, I suppose we could kind of go over some things that have actually happened so far. It's like some pretty concrete information. I could go back through my tweets here. Should be able to find some stuff in here. On Israeli retaliation, so far, I believe all we've had was some rocket strikes or airborne rocket strikes in numerous places within Gaza. I can go back here to about when everything started. It's been a good 2.5 hours though. Yeah, here we go. So it all kind of started with major explosions being heard within like the Gaza Strip area. Any new explosions? No. Been pretty quiet for now on. For about the past 15 to 20 minutes ish, it's been pretty quiet regarding explosions. But it all kind of started with some IDF activity, aerial activity over Gaza. Palestinian media was claiming it, but yeah, that's kind of how it started, and then we started to hear about some explosions being heard at a couple refugee camps that I know Hamas does frequent sometimes. So we started to hear that. We heard those explosions start to come in by those different sources, different Palestinian sources like Pal Hadath and Occupy Gaza, who, by the way, both really good sources. Would definitely recommend you go ahead and check them out. Then after that, it started to come in with some red alerts. I could probably go back through my phone here and probably find a good couple bit of them, but it was a good chunk. The red alerts were mainly like one area. At the start, it was mainly just like the Hamas was consistently striking like one area for a while. I know we saw, like in the Discord that I'm in, we saw numerous reports of red alerts for like the same areas over and over and over again. Basically what Hamas was doing is they were sending salvos of missiles, just tons of missiles. I think at one point they sent up to like 8 to 9 missiles into one area. It was like 8 to 9 missiles directly towards a certain kibbutz or Negev. I can't really remember which place it was. It was like 8 or 9 missiles to that one place. So obviously Hamas was definitely trying to, take these areas and really try and, hit them hard. But after that, some Israeli F-16s were noted and were hitting some areas the drones had hit. So the Israelis were kind of doing the same thing that Hamas was for a while, just, double, triple, quadruple hitting certain areas at the same time. And, yeah, then more, red alerts started to come in. There you can kind of see certain areas that were hit. I know there was a report. I can't exactly remember where it was. There was a report of a house being damaged somewhere in southern Israel. It was one of those bordering locations. The house was possibly hit by there. I didn't really see any information regarding that. So I don't really know any concrete information on that, but obviously that'd be pretty interesting. The Iron Dome is pretty costly to maintain. I think it's somewhere in the millions for a single battery for the Iron Dome, but I don't really Can't really say that for sure. But yeah, that was about 3 hours ago now that we saw these red alerts start to come in. Joe had a map here. You can kind of see the different locations. Right here is Gaza. If you can see my mouse pointer, right here is Gaza. And then, you know, some of them stretched pretty far, like this one here. Was able to get pretty far, but most of them were all like one centralized location. Who's paying that? Probably Israel. I mean, they've been putting plenty of Iron Dome interceptors and batteries into numerous different parts of Israel now for a while, for the past couple weeks. Yeah, then there was some interceptions that came in. The Iron Dome was targeting certain areas, and I feel like now would be a pretty decent time to go ahead and explain to everybody kind of how the Iron Dome works, because there was a couple people that were questioning why the Iron Dome had such a poor interception rate. And a lot of people don't realize that with the Iron Dome, it takes these missiles, it detects the missiles, detects where they're going, tries to figure out where their GPS location is, like where they're trying to target, and it decides if that missile is going to be a threat to a large-scale population, they will target that missile instead of another missile that might just hit an open field. So they're really going to target those missiles that are going towards high population areas. That's kind of why the Iron Dome has a iffy interception rate. But if you look at the missiles that the Iron Dome intercepted, you'll see that it intercepted, you know, missiles that probably would have hit some pretty high population areas. So thankfully, the Iron Dome, you know, it's a very good piece of technology. It's a very good piece of technology, the way they've utilized it. So obviously, really good there. But yeah, we saw some red alerts coming in. For a while, I think it was around here, we saw just an absolute ton of missiles being fired towards Israel. It was, at one point, I swear I was getting red alerts like at least every 2 minutes. So obviously, that was pretty chaotic. I mean, you should have heard it in my house. It was crazy what it sounded like with my phone just constantly going off. But yeah, same thing, you know, major salvos were coming in. They were sending, it was right here, yeah, where they fired 8 rockets towards one area. That was something that Elint was informing us about. Yeah, the missiles, it's really difficult to kind of say what the use of these missiles are that Hamas has been firing. Hamas utilizes these missiles mainly for one reason. They don't necessarily have the most damage. I suppose if it was, I guess you could say, a more accurate military, a better military with better GPS technology, they could be utilized better. But these missiles don't really have a high damage rate. The purpose for these missiles, and the reason why they're used so frequently, is the psychological effect that they have. Because imagine, you know, just trying to sleep in the middle of the night, you're bordering Gaza, you're trying to sleep, and all of a sudden you hear, you know, red alerts going off, and explosions in the distance, and you're being told to go to these, you know, bomb shelters and stuff like that. That's the kind of effect that Hamas is trying to go for with these, you know, mortars and rockets and stuff like that. Obviously, the kites, these incendiary kites that they've been sending in, has a much higher damage rate. The damage rate with these kites is it's drastically higher than anything we've seen thus far with mortars and rockets and stuff of that sort. So that's kind of the gist of everything regarding the mortars in comparison to the kites and stuff like that. Something interesting that I just noticed here, see if I can go ahead and get this pulled up. Civ Mil Air just pointed out a compass call was just noticed over Jordan. It seemed like it was kind of heading towards the West Bank area, directly heading towards Israel. This plane is more like a it's like a kind of like electronic attack. It's used for like intercepting like radio communications and things of that sort, things of that nature. So that's obviously pretty interesting. I'll go ahead and see if I can pull that up on ADSB here, see if we can go ahead and keep tabs on where that is heading. And if I can get a second here, I'll go ahead and explain to you kind of what ADSB is, because I know I get a lot of questions about how ADSB exchange works. Basically...
No, this is a test. I want you to try talking.
Oh. Hold on.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay, that worked. Hold on.
Alright, looks like we're getting a podcast set up here in the Discord. But anyways, what I was saying here is basically ADSB Exchange. It's a live display of aircraft. You can sort it using the filters, by military, by whatever you want. But yeah, it's pretty simple. Pretty simple to use. But anyways, if we scroll in here towards the Israel area, have a French plane over Cyprus. That's interesting. We have this EC-130H here that I just spotted on CivMil Air's Twitter. Pretty interesting. It's flying directly towards the Israel area. In fact, it should be crossing over into Israeli airspace here shortly. I'd be interested to see. This is a U.S. Air Force, by the way. So I'd be interested to
try
see.
right-clicking somebody in the voice channel and unmuting them. See if they can talk, and then right-click and mute them again, just to test.
Sorry, what was that?
Right-click somebody's name in the voice channel, and then uncheck the server mute. See if they can talk. If they can talk, right-click on their name again and recheck server mute.
Alright, gotcha. Exo, can you go ahead and try and talk real quick? Alright, Exo can't talk.
It doesn't look like they unmuted. Did you right-click and do the server mute?
Yeah, I unmuted them. Server mute.
They're both server muted. Let me go and unmute them.
Yeah, just unserver mute them. I wasn't able to for some
Hello?
reason.
Hello? Hello? Oh, it worked.
You're not mods, but yeah.
No, I gave him the permission to be able to do it.
I'm gonna go ahead and deafen real quick. Be right back. But yeah, anyways, sorry, it looks like we're getting a podcast set up here in the Discord. Basically what I was saying though, yeah, ADSB is pretty cool. Frequently I can kind of track aircraft that are flying over my house. That's always pretty cool to see these different aircraft flying over my house. The other day I had a P8 Poseidon fly over my house. Wasn't able to really get a good picture, but it was definitely pretty cool to be able to see that aircraft fly over. But yeah, that EC-130H seems to have gone off the radar, so I'll definitely have to, I'll pin this here and go ahead and keep that in mind, see if I can go and check that. Hello from Israel. Wow, that's really cool. Welcome to the live stream. I'm just going to be kind of going over everything that's happened thus far. Feel free to add in if you'd like. The chat is open. Go for it. Yeah, so 2 hours ago we had some just more rocket alerts. It was pretty much the same locations over and over again, like I said before. They were pretty much hitting the same location. And then, as you can see here, about 2 hours ago, I said it got pretty quiet. It did get quiet for a while, and then not much longer after that, we started to see some reports that Hamas factions were attempting to shoot down Israeli warplanes with machine guns. Obviously, that's pretty freaking hilarious in my opinion. I don't know how they thought that would work, but maybe it did work, because not much longer after that, we had seen reports that a Israeli drone was hit by some sort of anti-aircraft. Now, I've had a lot of questions as to what kind of anti-aircraft Hamas has, and I kind of touched on it earlier in Discord. They don't necessarily have all that impressive of anti-aircraft. I could go ahead and see if I can find the exact kind that they have. The main Hamas faction that operates inside of Gaza, they mainly have they have anti-tank missiles, I know that, and they have anti-aircraft missiles called manpads. And they have the SA-7B, the SA-18 Igla missile, and then they have some SA-24 Igla S missiles from Libya. That's not necessarily confirmed. That's just kind of a just a theory. So, oh hey, Elint in the chat, letting us know that he saw that a IDF military base was under heavy mortar attack. Interesting. Yeah, that would explain why there were so many reports of red alerts for that specific area. I don't really know. I don't know enough about. I'm not a good arms expert, but I don't know if it's just poor operation of the anti-aircraft, but I believe they mainly take stuff down using just mainly borderline, like, basic anti-aircraft stuff. Let me see if there's anything going on here. Some more IDF aircraft over Gaza, but it's been relatively quiet. Other than that, we haven't really seen anything else. There hasn't been a incoming rocket alert in, I don't know, maybe about 15 minutes now. 50, probably even more than that. Probably about 20 to 25 minutes it's been since we've seen any incoming rocket alert. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this discussion over here pretty quickly, so we can go ahead and hop in this this podcast we've got going on here. But my man Joe has a video for us to go ahead and check out. This is of a an IDF, or a Gaza Hamas tunnel being targeted by the IDF, obviously hitting it pretty hard, trying to destroy whatever they have in there, or whatever they were trying to use it for. I know sometimes they use those to try and maneuver around different locations without being detected. Yeah, there you go. Go ahead and let me know what you got. But yeah, you can kind of see what's happened. I was watching a live stream for a while, and it was just kind of touching on some different things that were happening. It was a live stream from inside Gaza. The guy was, basically explaining that he's heard a lot of Israeli warplanes, jets, drones, stuff like that in that area. Unfortunately, his live stream has gone down, and I haven't seen it come back up yet, so I'm definitely going to try and keep an eye out for that, because I would love to be able to get back in that live stream and go ahead and share that with you guys. But as of right now, there is nothing on his live stream. It's still offline. But then we started to hear about some electricity going out in Gaza. For a while, there was some widespread electricity outages. I believe now Occupy Gaza kind of explained what was going on. They're having rolling blackouts. West Gaza City had electricity, and it was off in other places. But yeah, that was pretty self-explanatory there. Rafah was being hit pretty hard. I saw Rafah pop up multiple times during the whole ordeal, the exchanges. Let me go ahead and, yeah, Rafah was hit by at least five missiles. I'm not sure what kind of missiles were being used by Israel. I'm assuming that's something we will learn closer to when this whole thing is confirmed to have wrapped up. As of right now, it's not necessarily considered over. Once that kind of stuff starts to come out, I'll assume we'll know. I can go ahead and maybe throw out a prediction that they were using Delilah missiles. I don't really know, because I know Delilah missiles can be pretty pricey, and there's been quite a bit of missiles fired from Israel, so I'm not sure if they would spend all that kind of money. But that's something I'll post later on my page once I find out more information regarding what missiles were used. But yeah, Elint, like I was saying earlier, was talking about a house being hit by a rocket from Gaza. I haven't seen anything else regarding that, so I'm not sure if it's been confirmed yet, or if it's just a theory or whatever that's been put out there, because there's been a lot of, I guess you could say, fake news that's been spread around thus far. So obviously I'll wait to kind of see if I see anything else about that. 2 hours ago, there were still more incoming rocket alerts. IDF spokesperson Twitter account was stating about that. It was mainly in the Eshkol Regional Council area, which is in southern Israel, if you're not familiar with the areas in there. Obviously, I was poking a bit of fun at Gaza factions, because they were firing missile after missile after missile towards Israel, and honestly, I don't know when they planned on running out. But Elint here says that it was, from Gaza, it was the Qassam 1 rockets. I was trying to see if they were maybe going to use the Qassam 2 rockets, but he says it was $800 Qassam 1 rockets from Gaza, and there was $50,000 Iron Dome interceptors used. I'm not sure if those Iron Dome interceptors were used to target locations. Elin, you might want to let me know in chat there. I'm not sure if they were used directly to intercept, to both intercept and to hit targets. I'm not sure, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I mean, as you can see, they were just still hitting, Hamas was still hitting Israel pretty hard. Israeli Air Force jets were still airborne, were hitting areas in the Gaza Strip. Intercept the rockets. Yeah, that's what I thought. Elin, by any chance, do you know what rockets Israel was using? Because I'm genuinely really curious as to what was being used by Israel, because they were firing quite a lot. So obviously that has to be pretty pricey. But yeah, it was about 2 hours ago, maybe closer to an hour and a half ago, that we started to see reports of a possible downed aircraft. That was pretty... The airstrikes from the F-16? Yeah, whatever airstrikes were being conducted inside Gaza, which I assume were basically F-16s, maybe drones, whatever. Yeah, it was about an hour and a half to 2 hours ago that we started to see information of a possible downed aircraft that was confirmed to be an Israeli drone. It was not anything super high tech. It was just a small little drone that was downed by the Gaza border, I believe. So that's not really anything that I'm too concerned about. Yeah, you can see what Joe was saying here. It was shot down. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that because I'm absolutely going to butcher the name. So let's just go ahead and skip right past that. But we saw some reports of smoke plumes coming from different army outposts, Israeli army outposts. I don't really think... I think this specific one here was hit pretty hard, but I don't know for sure. And then it was about an hour ago that I'm sure a lot of you were wondering about this, so I can kind of go ahead and touch on this here. Somebody with the Jerusalem Post, Nezra Taylor, I'm not sure if that's his name or whatever, but that's his Twitter handle, at Nezra Taylor on Twitter. He claimed that he had heard from different sources that there was threats that, I guess, a faction inside of Gaza might attempt to fire rockets towards Tel Aviv. However, I haven't seen anything else about that, and obviously Tel Aviv has not been hit yet. If Tel Aviv was hit by one of these Hamas factions, you would definitely know about it. So obviously not quite sure what that is about, but I'll keep an eye on it just in case something were to develop out of that. A video here by Joe. Turn the volume down a little bit. You can hear different sirens in the background and the sounds of explosions. This was, I believe, in Israel. This was recorded in Israel, so this is kind of what was transpiring as Hamas was hitting different locations. Elint, yes. Okay, so it was Delilah and some different AGM variations. Alright, interesting. That's very interesting because the Delilah missile, if I recall correctly, is pretty expensive from what I've heard. So that's intriguing nonetheless. About an hour ago, there was a report by this gentleman here stating that the Israeli army had vowed to conduct some sort of retaliation. However, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and say that was baseless. I don't really see anything else regarding that. That's been pretty quiet. You know, nothing really has came up about that lately, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that was a baseless claim. Don't really see anything else about that. It tends to happen. Fake news gets spread around pretty frequently. What do we got here? About an hour ago, we're starting to get closer to what was happening now. Some more rockets were inbound. This was the place that Elint was talking about a while ago. Was an Israeli military base was reportedly getting hit pretty hard by Hamas rockets. So that's pretty interesting. I wonder if there was any damage, any high-scale damage because of that. I'm sure if there was damage to an Israeli military base, they would be pretty pissed off. So we will keep an eye on that. And then not too much longer after that, we saw about the commander-in-chief for the head Hamas faction inside Gaza gave the green light to all the separate military wings inside, I said inside Hamas, but obviously meant inside Gaza, to respond to these strikes by Israel. Unfortunately for that one as well, I haven't really seen too much else regarding that, but that's one of those things that I'll keep an eye on. Who started everything? I want to say the reason for everything that had happened tonight was because of the rioting and the multiple grenades that were thrown over the Gaza border towards Israeli defense soldiers. I want to say that's kind of what triggered everything, because I do remember earlier today, I would say maybe about 1 o'clock, there was reports of a grenade being thrown over the Gaza border and striking an IDF soldier. So those kind of things tend to spark these conflicts between two different militaries, so that could probably be why. What do we got here? About an hour ago, they were still striking that consistent area, striking it over and over again. Then we saw about the terror tunnel that was being struck by the IDF. More rocket alerts over and over and over again. I want to try and get back here and see when the last rocket alert was. It looks like it might be 45 minutes ago. Yeah, I think it's been about 40. Okay, so it's been about 45 minutes since we've seen a rocket alert. So obviously pretty quiet. But something that Brad just posted here. I want to see if still not showing up. But Brad just noted the compass call that we had saw earlier was flying towards Tel Aviv. That's pretty interesting. It's alright to take a sip of my water there. Pretty interesting, because it is the U.S. Air Force, of course. And they are flying a pretty important aircraft towards an area that just got into a pretty big conflict between two militaries. So, that's pretty intriguing. Alright. So, the IDF spokesperson Twitter account has made looks like a statement here. Let's go ahead and read this. So it says, tonight, IDF fighter jets targeted an attack terror tunnel in southern Gaza, in addition to several terror sites throughout Gaza, among them complexes used to prepare arson terror attacks and a Hamas terror training facility. So basically, the IDF hit some areas that were used for preparing incendiary kites. They targeted those. They've targeted those for a couple times now. This is definitely not the first time that the IDF has hit these facilities, and it looks like they hit a Hamas terror training facility, which is something that, if I recall correctly, I have not seen before. So that's something that I think is new for the IDF. The strike was conducted in response to the terror acts instigating during the violent riots along the security fence yesterday, in addition to the continuous arson attacks damaging Israeli land on a daily basis. So the Israeli Defense Force had put out a statement, I believe yesterday or the day before, essentially stating that if these incendiary kite fires continue and they continue to launch these incendiary kites into Israel, Israel would respond appropriately. And Israel has responded, in my opinion, appropriately to those incendiary kites. So yeah, that kind of explains that, and it kind of touches on what I had said earlier about the grenade being thrown across the border. No, it wasn't terror training in a tunnel. It was the Israeli Defense Force had hit a terror tunnel in southern Gaza, and I said earlier the terror tunnel is used by the Hamas fighters to kind of transport around without being detected very easily, because they can move around underground. And they hit, in addition to that, they hit several terror sites, among them a complex used to prepare arson terror attacks, i.e. the incendiary kites, and a Hamas terror training facility. So that's kind of what they decided to hit. During the strike, approximately 17 rockets were fired from Gaza. 5 were intercepted by the Iron Dome. Hamas is responsible for the events transpiring in Gaza, and emanating from it, and will bear the consequences for its actions. Obviously saying that if Hamas continues to do the things that they've done previously, if they continue to launch these incendiary kites and scorch tons and tons of acres of Israeli land, Hamas will bear the consequences for that kind of stuff. And honestly, I can kind of see where they're coming from. Because these incendiary kites, if you've seen the damage reports on these incendiary kites, they've been damaging so much Israeli land. And sure, you could probably make the argument that Israel started this whole thing however many years ago. But the point and the fact of the matter is, these incendiary kites have been damaging tons of Israeli land. And Israel's not going to let that keep happening, hence why these strikes occurred tonight. Israel is just getting very frustrated, understandably so, with the constant incendiary kite launches. So, it seems like we've had basically an official report by the IDF spokesperson Twitter account. Usually, what happens with these Twitter account statements is, mainly these Hamas factions, these Hamas military factions, they tend to target. Let me see if I can go ahead and pull up a map here of Israel. I can kind of go ahead and show you where they tend to target. It's mainly these kinds of places that are in this area here. I can use I can go ahead and show you here. It's mainly things that are in this area. Most of the time. They tend to sometimes get a little bit outside of that area, but more frequently than not, this is the area that Gaza likes to stick to. And most of the time, these areas aren't necessarily very populated. Now, the thing with Hamas military, with their military equipment, they don't necessarily have the rockets and the capabilities to launch missiles, all the way over into here. Sometimes they've launched missiles into like they've came somewhere from in here and they've hit like areas over here, but more often than not they stick to places like right in here. But if we go ahead and zoom in here, let me just pick like here. Like obviously there's not a lot in here. You can go ahead and check a satellite view. This is probably the most populated area that they've hit thus far. They've hit this little area here. They've hit this this tiny little area in there and here. But the main part of this area here is the airport, the Ben Gurion Airport. This is well, it's not necessarily in here, but it's generally in this area. It's in the area. That's a very big airport. I believe it's one of the biggest airports in Israel. And a couple years ago, I believe it was in 2014, that airport was hit pretty hard by Hamas faction. So obviously there's a little bit of history to that. But yeah, that's mainly the places that Israel hits. But if we were to see something, if we were to see an all-out attack on like Tel Aviv, for example, I believe the distance from Tel Aviv to Gaza is like, I think it's about 50 to 60 miles. So assuming that Gaza, there would be launches from Gaza, from Hamas factions, they'd probably come from somewhere in here. They tend to operate near the water most of the time in this area here. So they would come all the way out of here, all the way to there. So that's about 50 to 60 miles, and honestly, Hamas doesn't really have the capabilities to hit that. I believe they might have missiles from Iran that are capable of stretching that far, but I'm not sure about that. That's something I'm not sure on. If Ela is still in here, he might be able to help me out with that. But I believe, just off what I've heard, Hamas really only has missiles that are capable of hitting, like these bordering communities, these bordering Negevs and kibbutzes and stuff like that. And I mean, as you can see here, the majority of this land is, yeah, there you go. Thank you. I believe that's pronounced the Fajr 5 rocket. I believe that's how it's pronounced. That seems to be the rocket that they would use. And I believe that rocket is capable of stretching all the way to Tel Aviv, but I don't know if they would want to inflict that kind of conflict, because that would obviously create a pretty large conflict. At that point, if they were able to hit Tel Aviv and they hit Tel Aviv successfully, you know, we would see, in my opinion, all these forces that are mobilized by the border. I have a feeling that they would, you know, execute a ground operation at that point. So I don't really see that they would do something like that, because I would hope these Hamas factions realize that, you know, the IDF is really tense right now, and it's not going to take much to set them off. But anyways, back to what we were talking about. Really, nothing else has happened. Nothing else has happened. The IDF spokesperson's Twitter accounts put out another post stating the time that it takes you to read this tweet is all the time they have at this very moment. Thousands of families were woken up in the middle of the night. The noise of red alert sirens signaling that rockets were fired at Israel. They only had seconds to run the bomb shelters. Very true. These people are very capable of getting to these places quickly. And they do most of the time, but you know, sometimes they only have seconds to get there. There you go. Thank you. I'll go ahead and retweet that. But yeah, I believe I did see something earlier stating that people that lived in those kibbutzes and different communities along the Gaza Strip border, I believe they were told to spend the rest of the night in bomb shelters. I'm not sure if that has been confirmed. That just kind of seemed to be something that was floating around Twitter. So I'm not really sure about that, what has happened with that, but that would obviously be pretty interesting, because if they're telling people to be inside their bomb shelters for the rest of the night, that would indicate that they're prepared for more strikes from Gaza, but I don't really know. Alright, let's go ahead and hop into the podcast. Let's see if anything's going on. Have we started any kind of discussion yet, or...
we're streaming, but we're trying to find the actual stream where it is now.
Oh, are you guys streaming on?
We're trying to stream on Periscope, but we can't find it.
Oh,
Lost
I just
stream
using
behind
YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm pretty much up to date on everything. So if you guys wanna do something or figure something out, what we're gonna talk about, it's up to y'all.
Y'all can figure that out while I'm trying to figure this out with Pat.
Alright. Yeah, I was just kind of informing everybody that was on my stream basically what's happened over the past 3 hours. Just kind of touched on different things. I believe everything's died down at the moment. It seems to be pretty quiet.
Yeah, there were reports of the IDF or IAF over Gaza, but it seems that nothing really came of it. So,
have you seen anything else recently? Like, has any other reports came
Yes.
out like recently of them being airborne?
a few minutes ago, maybe actually like 10 minutes ago, but the IDF tweeted, the spokesperson tweeted, there were apparently only 17 rockets launched.
Oh, interesting.
5 were intercepted, which is a better interception rate than we've seen recently. Pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I
More
was
than
kind
50.
of talking about how everything works with the whole Iron Dome and the batteries and the way that they use those. So that's a pretty good interception rate. But what that kind of tells me is if they intercepted more than they usually do, that tells me that Hamas might have fired missiles towards more populated areas, because we all know that the Iron Dome tends to target missiles that are heading towards populated areas. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, there were a lot of photos. Not a lot, but there was a photo. Well, first there was the report of the house being hit. Apparently.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how accurate that was. But then there was a photo of it was like right next to an apartment building or something. So yeah, you're right. It seems like they were targeting more populated areas.
Yeah.
Which again, you're right, leads to the better interception rate.
Yep. But I was kind of watching that EC-130H. It looks like it flew directly over Tel Aviv and is out in the middle of the Mediterranean, or heading towards that area. It's interesting. I'm not really sure why that aircraft would be out there.
Sorry, what is it again?
It was an EC-130H compass call, like an electronic attack kind of plane.
Oh, okay, yeah. It was over Jordan. I guess it passed now. Yeah.
Yeah, it flew over directly over Tel Aviv and is now in the Mediterranean. So interesting, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel people kind of underestimate the military capability of Hamas sometimes. I feel people kind of look at that and they just they think it kind of like the whole thing with North Korea when North Korea was starting to prepare their
Venezuelan invasion.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good debate topic. But with North
I
Korea,
already
started
know what I have
to
for my
prepare
angle
their
for first responder.
when they started to prepare their nuclear missile capabilities, everybody kind of laughed at them. But you kind of see what you're at now. You know, I mean, we were laughing at North Korea for a while because with their missile capability, and now all of a sudden, not quite a laughing matter anymore. So I feel like you might want to give Hamas credit where credit is due. Because as of right now, their missiles might not seem like they're all that capable of inflicting damage and whatnot, but you just give it a while. If Iran sponsors, if Iran decides to sponsor Gaza more missiles, because you got to realize Gaza's kind of like a proxy of sort for Iran. Iran kind of wants to use Gaza and the Hamas factions like a proxy. If Iran continues to sponsor Gaza, giving them money, giving them what have you, and missiles and all this, if they start to advance their military, give it maybe not even 6 to 7 months, and we're talking about a completely different Hamas at that point. Because you're going to have the Hamas that you have now with pretty decently trained military. Their soldiers are not no laughing matter. They're pretty intensely trained. So you take those soldiers that you have there that are trained pretty well, and you give them all this advanced new military equipment and stuff like that Iran has. Give them longer range capable missiles and better aircraft. Even give them aircraft at that point. We're talking about a completely revamped Hamas military. I know, like, right now, Hamas only has, I think Hamas has a surveillance drone. I think that's pretty much it in terms of aircraft. I know damn well they have no Air Force. I know damn well they don't have that. But the only thing that they have air-wise is a drone. Yeah, I don't even think they have an airstrip. I could look. I could pull up like a map. But I don't even think they have an airstrip. I just think it's one of those. I think it's a drone that's launched. It's a drone that's launched like you throw it, and it goes airborne that way. Let me see if I can try and find it. I was just looking at it the other day, actually. I'm not sure. I think they were given the drone by Iran. Yeah, you might be able to see it here. I can't remember. Yeah, here we go. I think it was either sponsored by Iran or it was it's an Iranian UAV that was manufactured by Iran Aircraft Manufacturing Industrial Company. They use it. I don't think they've used it in like 3 or 4 years, but they've definitely used it before. This is, I think, the only form of aircraft, quote unquote aircraft, I guess you consider it an aircraft, that they have. It's really not even necessarily that good. I know Hamas has it. I know Hezbollah was given it after or before the 2006 Lebanon war. All of them were shot down by Israel. But I know a couple of these little state quote-unquote terror groups have them. I know Iran has them, Sudan, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, as you can see in the service history on Wikipedia. But, yeah, that's really the only form of air operations that they have. I could try and see if there's anything else, but I'm pretty sure that's it. No, obviously Gaza's not gonna get, like... Obviously Gaza's not gonna get fighter jets. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if Iran decides to sponsor Hamas, like Hamas has been sponsored by different countries before, they could give them higher, more advanced technology. Obviously, I'm not talking fighter jets. I'm talking more or less, you know, like weapons. Because right now, I think the only weapons that they have are just some pretty poor, you know, rifles and stuff like that. I don't think they have any kind of snipers or anything like that. We can go ahead and kind of see what they have here. They pursued a capability to get toxic chemicals, but that was back in 2000, so not sure if there's anything like that now. But they were definitely trying to at one point. They have these anti-tank missiles. I know that they have anti-tank guided missiles. They actually have a North Korean based anti-tank missile, which I find kind of funny. They have light automatic weapons, grenades, improved rockets, mortars, bombs, suicide belts, explosives. That's kind of touching on the whole terror thing. They kind of, you know, Hamas tends to execute their operations more or less by like trying to get to the border, chucking grenades over the border, stuff like that. They're not necessarily the kind of little group that wants to like launch missiles everywhere, regardless of what we've seen. Yeah, I mean they're definitely capable of becoming a strong group. I mean, if Iran continues to sponsor them, we could definitely see that. But yeah, other than that, I don't really think anything else has happened. It's been pretty quiet. As you can see, some more bigger groups are starting to touch on that. Oh, they do have snipers? Oh, I wasn't sure that. As we can see, like I-24, some more major Israeli news sources are starting to touch on it, which kind of gives me the idea that everything might be over. So, unless I see anything interesting that pops up... Oh, yeah, here we go. This is pretty interesting. So this was... Okay. This is a list of what was targeted by the Israeli Defense Force tonight. So if you want to go ahead and kind of read over this here, I'll go ahead and read over it as well. This is what was targeted by the Israeli Defense Force. So it mainly, just looking at everything here, targeting of an empty agricultural land. Good job. Targeting of an empty land east of Gaza City. Targeting location of north of Gaza City with a reconnaissance missile. That's interesting. Militants reportedly were able to shoot down a small IDF drone. Yep. That's what we had said about before. Targeting location, yeah, with a recon missile, yeah. So, all in all, the response by Israel, in my opinion, was a little bit disappointing, because with the response that we saw from Hamas, you would definitely think that Israel was gonna, you know, conduct something a little bit more larger scale, but I suppose not. How much were hurt and killed? I think there was only reports of one minor injury. I think there was only reports of one minor injury, and that was inside Gaza. I haven't seen anything regarding injuries or fatalities inside of Israel, so I can't necessarily say anything regarding that. Obviously, I'm going to keep everybody updated if more and more stuff starts to happen. On my Twitter page here is where you'll be able to see it firsthand if you're looking for more of that information. Other than that, I don't really think there's anything else to talk about. I think we've kind of touched on everything. Everything seems to have died down in terms of trading missiles between each other. So it seems like everything calmed down. Once again, if you guys are looking for more updates, I'll be going ahead and touching on everything later and updating you guys as more information starts to come out on my Twitter page at IntelDoge on Twitter, of course. Other than that, I'll be answering some questions after the stream here in the chat, so just go ahead and feel free to ask some questions in the chat if you have any more questions. Other than that, I'll be back maybe the next time that we see something like this. Who knows how long it'll be till we see More trading of rocket fire between the two. So yeah, other than that, if you guys have any other questions and I'm not on stream, go ahead and shoot me a DM. My DMs are open. Other than that, this is Intel Doge. I'll talk to you guys later.
My fight is one who needs a gun. Boom, boom, knock you out. You knocked me down, but who's laughing now? Boom, boom, knock you out. My fight is one who needs a gun. Boom, boom, knock you out. You knocked me down, but who's laughing now? Boom, boom, knock you out. You pick on the weak, your twisted tongue speaks all the fears you hide. Fear inside. You think I don't see, you're not talking to me. I'm the mirror of the night. Fear inside. But I get stronger every day. My power's fed by your hate. My fight is one who needs a gun. Boom, boom, knock you out. You knocked me down, but who's laughing now? Boom, boom, knock you out. My fight is one who needs a gun. Boom, boom, knock you out. You knocked me down, but who's laughing now? Boom, boom, knock you out. And the bully's best friend is the poison pen. But you can't touch me while you sit at home and attacks all alone. You try to phase me, but I get stronger every day. My power's fed by your hate. My fight is one who needs a gun. Boom, boom, knock you out. You knocked me down, but who's laughing now? Boom, boom, knock you out. My fight is one who needs a gun. Boom, boom, knock you out. You knocked me down, but who's laughing now? Boom, boom, knock you out.
Where colors collide and beam up the sky, flowing like rivers of gold. The streets are alive, a place where all your dreams can come to life. No matter the fight, you'll be alright in the city of light. The city of light, the city of light. No matter the fight, you'll be alright in the city of light. The city of light. Come with me, we'll hold the night. No matter the fight.